Welcome to A Stride Above podcast, where our commitment to excellence in equine health and athletic performance unites us. Join your host, Dr. Alberto Rullan, as we trot through the essential topics that matter most to you and your equine family members. With over 15 years of experience in equine sports medicine and rehabilitation, Dr. Rullan is dedicated to navigating you through the latest innovations and essential insights in horse health. Together, we'll ensure that you and your horses always remain a stride above the rest.
Hey, welcome back. Welcome back. Today, I'm extremely excited. I'm going to introduce you to a great friend of mine, a great professional, and someone that's going to add tons of value to you, to your horse, by sharing his knowledge. Today, we have Dr. Adam Pendleton. He is a farrier. He's a veterinarian. He is what we call an equine podiatrist. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you. So good to be here.
So I'm just so excited to have Adam with us. And I'm going to ask him tons of questions. And remember, if you have questions for him or for me, you can always ask us in our social media, in our podcast, send us an email, call me, whatever, however you want to reach us. So first of all, I want you to introduce yourself. Tell us who you are. How did you get into podiatry?
I was extremely lucky, and the stars just kind of aligned for me, actually.
No one is lucky. You just work hard.
So I grew up on a horse farm in northern Ohio, right on the lake. In fact, I kind of joke about everyone asked if I had a boat growing up because we were surrounded on three sides by water. And my typical response is, I grew up on the only horse farm in Marblehead. So there are times where the days are getting really long and you're getting frustrated and things like that. And it's like, man, I kind of wish I would have grown up with boats instead, but I couldn't. That's, it doesn't happen often, but it has happened. So my dad was a horse trainer and a farrier. He went to Cal Poly. They had a farrier school there after he got out of the military, and came back to Ohio and started his business. When I was born, we had Arabian show horses. Mm-hmm. So he was kind of a do-it-all type. He would train, he would shoe, we would bale our own hay. We kind of did a little bit of everything, And one of the things that I wanted to take from growing up, seeing his struggles, was, he kind of spread himself pretty thin. And I like to say that he was kind of a jack of all trades, but, he never really focused in on one thing. Mm-hmm. So I always wanted to take that experience and kind of learn from it and grow from it. And so I started showing horses when I was a kid. And then once I learned to start shoeing with him, I was like, oh man, I get to be around horses all the day and people pay me to do this. And so that's kind of how I went down that path. Because I think people who love horses, it doesn't really matter what you're doing with them as much as just, that feeling that you get when you're around them.
Yes.
So
I think I think all our listeners understand that. That's a very special bond.
Yeah, exactly. And to be able to get paid to be with horses all day, every day is really, really great. And so I was actually reflecting on this the other day where I was thinking about it. There was only one time period in my life where I would go more than a couple days without being around a horse. Uh-huh. And it was actually in veterinary school, which is what kind of made it even a little more difficult for me, because you didn't get that contact and that emotional connection to what it is that you're doing, why you're working so hard.
Yeah. But before we get to your vet school days,
yeah, sure.
Tell us about, you became a farrier. How long were you a farrier, and what certifications you got?
So I started with my father, and it was kind of perfect because he was kind of slowing down a little bit. And when I got interested in it, I started making shoes when I was about 11 years old.
Wow.
And then getting under horses when I was about 14. And we had a barn full of about 18 head of horses. And so there was plenty to practice on there. And he took on a little more clientele at that point, so that when by the time I got my driver's license, I kind of transitioned over where he just kind of handed that stuff off to me. The people already had trust in me and things like that. And I did a lot of backyard riding horses, and we had gotten into the AFA certification.
What does AFA mean?
American Farriers Association. That's pretty much the best governing body of farriers in the United States. Okay. They have the most rigorous training.
Okay.
And so I remember, so my dad always handmade all of his shoes, which was very unusual for that area and things like that. So we kind of thought we were the, big guys on the block, hand making our own shoes and stuff like that. And we went to our first farrier competition at the University of Findlay. And I still remember it was Dave Ferguson was judging. He's a guy from Maryland. We walk in, chest puffed out, and then we see his specimen shoes on the table.
You got humble.
Oh my God. Yeah, we kind of got smacked down a little bit. And so that's where my addiction kind of began with, competing and education through the farrier portion of it. So I hit it really hard for quite a few years there on the farrier side of things, because all I ever wanted to do was shoe horses when I grew up. And so I was, at the time, I think the youngest to pass their certified. I think it was about 16, 17.
Wow.
And then my journeyman, I passed the year that I graduated high school.
What does journeyman mean?
So there's a couple different levels in the certification, and the three main are, they have a certified tradesman, and then journeyman level. And so each level increases in difficulty. And there's one of the reasons that I do have a lot of faith in the AFA testing system is because it's both academic and practical. So you have to, be able to pass a written exam and pass a practical exam as well. Show that you aren't either just a bookworm or, just an amble.
So journeyman is the top certification now in the United States for farrier.
Yes.
Cream of the cream, the top.
They do have a therapeutic endorsement, but honestly, I think if for anybody out there, if you really are searching for someone, because the interesting thing is that the Farrier Association in the United States is one of the only industries where certification is voluntary, right?
Yeah.
So the guys that are going to go for those certifications are the ones that are doing it for themselves.
So there's no governing regulations or government or non-regulatory for farriers. Nope. Other countries, other countries have it?
Yes. England is one of the most well-known, where the Worshipful Company of Farriers, or Worshipful Company of Blacksmiths, I think, they have a mandatory apprenticeship, classroom work, then you get practical, and their apprenticeship, I think, is like 4 years long, something like that. So, that's another topic for another podcast.
We'll do another podcast on that.
But
so you got to the top, you spent several years there, and you say, I want more.
I met a guy. So the types of horses that I was shoeing at the time was based on just who the best farriers were, like what were they shoeing, so I'm going to go ride with them. And I met a guy from Ashland, Ohio, Randy Luckhart, who
so we're talking about mentorship here.
Yeah. And he showed me some things with straight line physics, the distal limb, and I'm like, man, this stuff really works. Now I'm going to have to go figure out how it works. So that's when still at this point, I hadn't decided to go to vet school. So I wanted to take physics courses, specifically mechanics. Well, I needed the prereqs for those. So I was going to school 3/4 time, and it was a good way to buy student health insurance, right? And so I got through the courses, and then I had to declare a major. And so just kind of randomly, I'm like, well, animal sciences, but I'm at a branch campus, so I couldn't finish my undergrad degree. That's when I decided to go to main campus, and I thought...
Is this main campus where?
In Columbus, Ohio.
Ohio State University.
Yep. And so at that point, once I finished my animal science degree, I'm like, I'll throw my hat in the ring and see what happens. And one of the main factors was my mentor. If there was anyone who really deserved a PhD in shoeing horses, it was this guy.
Okay.
And so I thought I saw his struggles with veterinarians and owners and things like that, and I thought, man, I really could help this out a little bit if I went the next step and went to vet school. So.
All right. So you went to vet school, graduated vet school. Did you see the world different? Did you have any? What was your opinion after you graduated vet school as a farrier? That's not very common, but I know that there are some farriers that do that.
Sure.
Or actually, some of them do it backwards. Some of them go to vet school first, and then they go to farrier school because they fall in love with podiatry.
Yeah.
So, in a couple minutes, tell us how different did you see the horse, the word, the feet, or it didn't change anything, or what kind of impact did that make on you?
I think it had some both positive and negative impacts on me, as far as obviously I had a much broader base of knowledge, because most veterinary students, their knowledge base is a mile wide
Or
and an
basic
inch.
science.
Yeah, it's a mile wide and an inch deep, right? Well, my background was completely the opposite. My knowledge base was an inch wide and a mile deep. And so there were some things that were a little frustrating when you saw something that you didn't quite agree with, or you knew didn't operate the way it was being taught. And so that was kind of frustrating, but it really gave me good background too, because I think that a DVM is no different than the CJF, where that's not the end of the journey. That's just your license to learn.
Thank you.
So that opened so many doors for learning opportunities afterwards that I was really excited to get to work, honestly.
Yeah. So we're gonna be cutting it shortly, and then we're gonna have another episode on some pathologies. But now that you gave us a deep understanding of your background and why you're probably one of the most qualified persons to talk about feet, tell me, after you graduated, do you now shoe most of the time still with your new knowledge of vet school?
Honestly, no. I have to be a little bit careful, because that's always my comfort zone. I always try, and it's easy to tend to go that way. But my practice really consists of more sports medicine type work, and the podiatry. It will always be a portion of it because I love it so much. It's been a part of my life for so long. I think I find more self-satisfaction helping farriers go through some of the things and learn some of the things that it took me 25 years to learn,
Awesome.
and so that's kind of where I'm going with it right now.
Awesome. Stay tuned with us. In the next episode, we're going to talk about diseases. It could be laminitis. It could be arthritis. Who knows? We'll see what we get. Thank you very much for watching. Thank you, Dr. Adam, for being with us. And we'll see you shortly.